Madam Chair.
Yep, I'm in.
Okay, so we're waiting. Okay, so am I calling this or what?
So we're not, so you're just going to say that this is the continuation of the morning session, and then we're going to take a 30-minute break.
Okay, we're live?
Yeah.
Okay. So good afternoon. This is the Board of Standards of Public Hearing for June 15, 2021. This is a continuation of the 10 a.m. session. We will resume at 2:30.
Yes,
We'll
2:30.
take a break and resume at 2:30.
Yes, so we're going to continue the morning session. I think we have one more case on
Yeah,
it.
one case, yes.
And then we'll move into the afternoon calendar.
Review session.
But commissioners are going to take a 30-minute break now. Commissioner and staff will take a 30-minute break. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, if everyone could come back, please.
Sorry.
I'm here.
Okay.
You ready?
I don't know if I have all the commissioners. Side by side gallery. Here we go. Okay. All right, we have a quorum. I don't know if Commissioner Ollie Brown is on. Commissioner Ollie Brown, please join. It's okay, we have a quorum though, we can start.
We're live on YouTube, but we're not on the webinar.
Right.
Ready?
Yes, we're ready. It doesn't say webinar, does it matter?
It's on.
Okay.
Oh, it's on? Okay, I was looking for that, sorry. Okay, we're resuming, we're back on the record for the public hearing, June 15, 2021, continuation of the 10 a.m. session. The case that we're discussing is item number 27, 2019-162BZ, 3336, 3338 Bedford Avenue, Brooklyn.
Okay, and Mr. Goldstein's already in, so you can wait.
How are you?
Hi.
Okay, is anyone coming in with you?
No.
Okay. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Jay Goldstein for the applicant. I heard the comments at the review session. So with regard to the fully dimensioning the walls, showing the length, I'll have, we tried to be as clean as possible to make sure that all the dimensions were covered. So I'll have the plot plan and all the plans match all the string dimensions match, so that you can, any sheet you're looking at will match the chart and the demo plan.
Excellent.
Walls to remain when being demolished. I have a note here, Madam Chair, that you mentioned there's an existing wall being shown as
Yes.
it's, so I see what you're saying and I see the confusion. That's actually the existing walls. It's an existing exterior wall that's becoming interior. It's not counted towards my 50% retention. It's just, it's one of the walls that's being used to support the upper floor.
Oh, okay. Can you just indicate?
I'm going
make
to change
note?
the shading, but it's not, it's absolutely not counted towards my 50% retention. It
Okay.
is just, I understand the confusion, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
With regard to the attic, my understanding is it's not to be occupied. I did see that the stair is misleading, so I'll clean up that and I'll show a longitudinal section. And
Okay.
if we're able to reduce the height, we can, but I think because of the width of the building, this was the pitch he needed, but I can have the architect address it and show longitudinal plans to express it. Sky exposure plane, I'll have him follow the ZR to better illustrate it.
Let's just go back though. I would like an attic plan because though
Like,
it's.
no, I said I'll give an attic plan. So you want an attic plan even if it's not going to be accessible?
Yeah, because that's what they say. It's accessible. It's not accessible, but then all of a sudden, what do you know? In comes the staircase while no one's looking. So I want to make sure that we have something that's not considered floor area. You know, the DOB review of another case we are hearing went into that subject. There was a DOB analysis that said a fixed stair is one of the things that goes to whether they consider it to be floor area, but it's not the only criteria. So.
Okay, I'll provide the floor plan indicating if it in fact has no use or is not to be used, I'll indicate it on the plans as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, sky exposure plan will provide you with the plan. I see the 1410 dimension. I'll clean that up. I'm not sure why it's there. I thought we got rid of it. with regard to the justification for the rear yard, Vice Chair Chanda's comments are well received. We did, and we are maintaining that front yard, and we're respecting the neighbors by providing or asking for the 25-foot yard to provide for the extra bedrooms. We understand that the block may not have, everyone may not be built out like that yet, but this is something that we believe will allow the owners to develop the property to have a habitable house that they can feel comfortable in and provide space for them, but it's still not overreaching in terms of the ask.
Okay, I'm okay with it. That setback, I didn't actually realize when I was looking at the drawing. So
Okay, great.
that's okay.
Then the final two comments, Commissioner Shetta, apologies about the typo, I'll fix it. And then the beam design and treatment, duly noted, and I'll send the video to the architect so he can have his engineer make sure that it's well supported and well designed.
Great, thank you.
Those were all the questions. So the only thing that I have to provide are the attic plan with the longitudinal section, the sky exposure, just cleanups on the plans. I don't think anything within the project will substantially change, or I don't think anything will change.
Right, so that sky exposure diagram, I don't even know if that's what DOB accepts, but.
Okay, well, I'll send them some samples of what's been accepted by DOB and have him adhere to it.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to the public.
The case we are currently discussing is 2019-162BZ, 3336 to 3338 Bedford Avenue, Brooklyn. The call-in number is 646-558-8656. Zoom webinar ID number is 918-0831-9516. And the passcode should you require it is 660655. You may press *9 to raise your hand once you call in and *6 to unmute. If you are in the Zoom room, please raise your Zoom hand.
So there are a few people whose names I don't recognize in the Zoom room. Please raise your Zoom hand if you want to speak on this case. Okay, so this is 3336 Bedford Avenue. How much time to make those changes?
I can make them fairly quickly, and seeing as it's not substantive, I don't think anything in the project is requested to be changed. I was hoping that we can close it and
oh, I have somebody who raised their hand. Sorry, I see a hand up. Ann Ewing.
Oh, Ms. Ewing is part of my next case for TLE.
Oh, okay, so
So she
that's the
may.
next case. Okay, sorry.
I mean, you can bring her in. I don't want to taint anything, but I know she's with the school.
Right, okay, so she's part of it. She just lowered her hand. Okay. Okay, so so my question to you though was how much time? Fairly quickly doesn't tell me anything. How many weeks?
I can do it within a week.
1 week, so say 2 weeks. So you
If
do
I
it.
could submit on the 30th, would it be possible to get on? I know there's one hearing in July.
Yes,
Get on
yes.
that hearing in July for a decision.
Okay, so I'm gonna write June 30th submit.
Perfect.
Okay, for July 28th hearing. Okay.
28th or 22nd?
Oh, sorry, you're right, 22nd. 22nd. Thank you. Okay, so then, yes, I would like to make a motion to close.
Chair Perlmutter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda,
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Shetta.
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta.
Aye.
Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody.
you. And as always, I appreciate how responsive you are to your cases, and so we don't linger like we do in some recently heard cases. Okay.
Some yes, some no. I appreciate it. Okay, I'll speak to everyone soon. Bye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we're going to the public review session for June 15, 2021, 2 p.m. session. Okay, zoning calendar, item number 28, 2019-192BZ is the continued hearing on 16 Harrison Place, Brooklyn.
And just so anyone listening, this is a review session. No one calls in. We discuss all the cases in the review session, and then we open it up to the public hearing where we will again call those cases. So in response to board comments, a lesser variance as of right office use plan was provided that shows inefficient use of the ground floor with scissor stairs and elevator corridor access that renders the ground floor retail less than ideal. One way I've observed that is that problem is dealt with on a similarly sized lot is to move the elevator to the rear. And we did say we would entertain rear yard waivers to facilitate this. But the financial analysis claims that this use could not support the development costs, and I'll defer to Commissioner Otley Brown on those issues. I'm not convinced that the Biz Now article that was provided about enormous development projects now underway and those projects changing their A+ level office mix is actually relevant to artisan and small business workspaces near low scale residential areas targeted to businesses that cannot afford the rents of an A+ enormous floor plate minimum, nor do those businesses need that type of space. So I don't think it's a fair apples comparison. It's a completely different kind of issue in that office market. No changes were made to the apartment layouts. I kind of understand them, and I actually, this is kind of sort of architect talk now. I'd like to refer the architect of this project to a really wonderful hotel project in Amsterdam. Hotel is called the Zoku, Z-O-K-U, where with something like a 10-foot high ceiling height, which is what's proposed here, the area over the entryway, bathroom, and kitchen become a loft bed that uses really brilliantly designed built-in cabinetry. It has a similar entry condition, as I said, to that proposed, and a lower ceiling over the kitchen entrance would be proportionally better, and it creates so much more space. So if you can get images of the Zoku Hotel, you will learn a lot of great stuff about how to design an apartment layout like this. We have another fire department letter of objection, though, for failure to provide proper roof access. That objection is from June 10th. And then in terms of seeker, we have a revised EAS with analysis submitted on April 27th. We have open hazmat. DEP issued comments on June 2nd, requesting a work plan and HASP for phase 2 testing. We have open air quality, where there was a revived EAS and backup data sent to DEP on May 7th. We have open noise, similar response to DEP sent on May 7th. And of course, as we all know, DEP is in a state of overwork and is not able to respond to most, if not all, of our applications in the immediate future. So, okay. So Vice Chair Shonda.
Thank you. So I have some questions first with regards to the plan. As I understand it, the lesser variance plans, the plan that has been submitted is exactly the same as the 58 Grattan Street. My question is, when comparing that to the proposed residential plan for this subject site, in the proposed residential plan, in the cellar, the applicant is proposing a sloped foundation. And the reason, the argument that was given by the applicant is to minimize the underpinning cost. So my question is, why is a sloped cellar condition not being considered for the lesser variance and also for the as of right option? Wouldn't that reduce the cost of construction? And I don't know whether that makes the either of the lesser or the as of right more viable. I would like the applicant to clarify that, because in all these three, the lesser, as of right, and the proposed, the buildings are almost 4-story in height. So that's why I'm asking that question. In terms of the layout of the plan, I really did not have any comments. Actually, I was looking at this and I was thinking, why can't this layout be used in the Stanwyck case? But that this might be a little bit narrower. I'm not sure why the layout wouldn't work, but I was thinking of this layout for that project. In terms of the neighborhood character, the additional information provided regarding the abutting buildings, heights, further confirm that a 40-foot high building, a 4-story building on the subject lot will be consistent with the neighborhood context. Both the lesser variance and the proposed building would be 40-foot high, 4-story, while the as of right would be 3-story with a 54-foot high to accommodate the loft context. Now, comparing the subject block with the blocks where 58 Grattan Street development is proposed, the buildings on Grattan Street block ranged anywhere from 1-story warehouse to 3-story homes to 4-story industrial loft buildings, similar to what we see in this subject block. So I'm quite satisfied with this proposal. Except for the question as to the slope foundation and whether that is needed for this project, especially when it has not been replicated in the lesser and the as of right. And then I had a couple of questions with regards to the financing, and that is, why is the soft cost in lesser variance so much higher than the as of right and the proposed? Though not sure if the reduced construction cost in lesser variance to match that of the as of right will make the project development cost viable. I would like Commissioner Otley-Brown to weigh in on that, but that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Otley-Brown.
So in the previous hearing, both Commissioner Shetta and myself were making the case that the construction costs were way too high. And as a result, it was hard to tell whether or not those costs were inflated or whether the as of right really would not work. So we're talking about originally construction costs of about $450 a square foot for the as of right and $505 for the proposed. And we said we wanted them to use Marshall and Swift. So what I got in response to that was a whole page narrative on why Marshall and Swift was not a good idea, because it doesn't take into account the specific circumstances, the New York City construction market, the New York City labor issues, as well as the construction on a very small constricted site. Well, then they go on to say that it should only be used by appraisers who were trying to quantify their visual inspection. This is what I have to say in response to that. We have asked for Marshall and Swift because construction costs in general on all of these variance cases have been getting out of control. They've been creeping higher and higher and higher as time goes on, and now it is no longer credible. It is not credible that in Brooklyn you would have costs as high as $600 a square foot. We don't even see that in Manhattan. And so therefore we told people we wanted them to ground their costs in Marshall and Swift. Now, grounding your cost in Marshall and Swift means that you should be getting rid of almost all of your soft costs, because Marshall and Swift cost figures actually account for a good portion of the soft costs. So for me, just looking at this report and seeing soft costs and costs still included, I don't think that's accurate. Now, going back to what they did do, they did eventually use Marshall and Swift, but they used Marshall and Swift to justify their own personal cost estimators' extremely high costs from the second report. And so they do things like they choose for the conforming office and retail, they chose a Class A office building figure. Well, when I hear Class A office building, I'm thinking Manhattan Plaza District lipstick building and the likes of that. I'm not thinking little rinky-dink 4-story office building in a borough. So I'm not sure whether or not they're choosing the proper categories or whether they're just choosing categories willy-nilly to support the professional cost estimators' already high construction costs. They do the same thing with the proposed. They choose Class A apartments. And in choosing the Class A apartments, they're managing to reach $505 in hard costs and an additional and then they add an additional $81 in soft costs. So the results are that the construction costs are almost as high as $600. So in response to that, and not really coming away with a feeling that they're getting this right, I want them to provide for me the actual Marshall and Swift cut sheets that they use so I can see exactly where they're pulling their factors from. And I want them to reduce their soft costs only to the soft costs that are not covered by Marshall and Swift, which is a very small amount. And that should be bringing their construction costs down to hopefully a number that's believable, about half of what they've been quoting.
Okay, interesting. So that would account for why there's the Biz Now reference comparing this little site, offices in this little site to offices in the Lipstick Building, or better, right? Better, because what we're talking about is brand new 44-story office towers, multiple, that decided to convert more of it to residential. So they're not even built yet. So the level of amenities in a building like that are really over the top. And I doubt anyone would, for one, you wouldn't do that in such a little building. But for two, there isn't a need for that in that marketplace, which, as I said, is neighborhood people who don't have a reason to go to Manhattan to go in a gigantic office building. They have a little business, like a little architect's office or a graphic designer or something like that, and all they need is a few desks. So
exactly.
right?
I mean, you couldn't build a Class A office building on a 2,500 square foot lot. It would be impossible, because part of the hallmark of a Class A office building is that you have a huge lobby. You have a huge lobby, you have high floor to ceiling, you have the ultimate, pinnacle of technology built into this building, the ultimate pinnacle in security built into this building, the ultimate pinnacle of furnishings built into this building. You don't have that here. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. So except unless you want to justify what your previous cost estimator gave as construction costs. And so still the costs are driving this project.
Yeah, it means you have a white marble lobby that's very larger than most of the houses we see.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner. You did a very good job in looking at the Marshall and Swift undermining trial. This is the way I call it. Yes, when I started reading the submission, I started with this letter that undermines the credibility of Marshall and Swift. And I thought that's a preparation for something, and I was right. They tried to convey the message that do not count on Marshall and Swift because it's not that accurate. Actually, I would respond to it. And I just want to comment on something else. And this is like the fifth time I repeat that. Our administrative notice regarding the construction cost actually did mention that in case of no hardship that's associated with engineering, like the subject case, there is nothing related to engineering. We gave him the option to all the applicants to go with a simplified method to come up with construction cost based on square footage. This is in our administrative notice version 0.0. It's nothing that's like new. We're not. Yes, we're trying to like dictate now that, please, if you don't have engineering issues, just do it based on that simplified square footage construction cost. Because I personally got bored of looking at tons of papers that with made up numbers all over the place. And while it could have been done like in a simple way, square footage price is X, period. And when I looked at this specific submission, I believe Marshall and Swift is one, and I'm not claiming that I do have past experience with it, but when I looked at the submission, it sounds like this tool takes many parameters that's related to the construction site, like the location, how big is the building, what is the shape of the building. If somebody is telling me that I can't predict the temperature tomorrow, and I'm gonna ask you some questions and you count on me, and if he starts by asking me, how tall are you? I wouldn't be confident that he's gonna give me an accurate like prediction. But if he's starting with, oh, the wind speed tomorrow is this, yesterday temperature was this, if he starts asking questions that are related to the subject, I would be like more confident that his answer is going to be credible. And this is the case of how I look at this tool, Marshall and Swift. All the input parameters are related to the construction side. So I believe it's credible tool. It should be used in the absence of engineering issues. You don't have to go to that very lengthy construction, especially with these kind of games going on. If you look at page 74 of the PDF of the financials, you're gonna see item number 500, structural steel. There are like probably like 50 line, and at the end, the total weight or tonnage of this steel is this. How could I like justify this? They haven't submitted to me a single drawing that tells me that, yes, this beam is W16 by 32 or W14 by 30. I have nothing to look at to make sure whether this is correct or incorrect. They submitted nothing. And that's what we said when we issued the notice. We said, if you're gonna say something, please submit to us drawings or documents that justify this thing. If you didn't submit that, you're counting on my guess? No, I'm not gonna guess. So I wanna stick with Marshall and Swift. And I did actually run a simplified exercise. I did notice some discrepancy between the size of the building that was considered in Marshall and Swift and the size of the building that was considered in the actual construction cost, in the detailed one. For example, for one of the scenarios, the number of stories was input as 5, while it's 4. I don't know why is that. Of course, if you have a taller building, the construction could be more difficult, and the cost from Marshall and Swift could be more exaggerated. So the exercise I ran is I took the construction cost they came up with from Marshall and Swift, and what I did is I compared them to the cost that they came up with from the detailed construction cost estimate, adding the soft cost and the hard cost together. And if you look at Marshall and Swift, it's almost less by from 20 to 35%. So what Commissioner Brown mentioned about that cost could go down by as much as 50%, I'm very supportive of that. And again, if they're gonna submit another version of the financials, I would like to get as much details as possible on the cut sheets, the data, the factors that they input to Marshall and Swift, so we can look at them. Thank you.
Right, okay, it's true, you can't figure out anything when you look at it, what the criteria is. How did you, Commissioner Ali Brown, how did you figure out that it was for a Class A office building? You're muted.
Because I saw in the financials, it says Class A office building, that was what was used, basically, a Class A office building and then Class A apartments.
Okay, so that must be something that gets plugged in as opposed to
Usually
market
there's,
rate or,
there are set
If-
of
if-
figures for each kind of, you know, highest quality, medium quality,
Oh, I
lowest
see it.
quality.
it says it right there, class
Yeah.
A.
Yeah.
300 apartment, class A. Whatever that
Yes,
means.
it lists the parameters first, the address, how many stories in certain section, what is the floor area in a given section, and actually, it's a very nice tool. It divides the building into sections. It doesn't. It gives you the option to handle the building as one bulk, or if you have, let's say, you have a mixed-use building that the finish is gonna vary from section to section, but first floor to fifth floor is gonna be this, and fifth floor to 10th floor is gonna be, it gives you the option to divide the building into sections and treat the building as actually different buildings or more than one building. So this is good. It sounds like it's a good tool. It's accurate enough. And I don't know why they said what they said about it.
Yeah. And then is there, and you plug in the fact that the work is going on in New York City, right? So they're
Yeah, of
adding
course, yeah.
whatever kind of
Yes,
expense, cost criteria that would affect city rates. And if anything, it's even timed for the market at the moment that you enter it, right? So if
they
sheetrock
revise
is
it.
going up, right, it would reflect the increase in sheetrock, for example.
That's pretty much all of what I was going to say. Most of my review was based on the statement that Marshall and Swift doesn't apply to New York, but you know, I did a bit of a dive into the Marshall and Swift current cost multipliers, and primarily because of what we, I guess, Commissioner Otley Brown, Commissioner Shedd, and myself noted as the Class A. But you'll see that there's current cost multipliers for each, not only each state, but each city within that state or each county. If you take New Jersey, they have from Osbury Park to Passaic, and they have certain multipliers, whether it be from A, B, C, D, or S. So if they want to make an argument that Marshall and Swift, like the argument that they made, I'm not going to give them ideas in an argument, but the argument that they made with regard to it not being accurate, I think falls flat based on just what Marshall and Swift does on a locale basis. They did have an argument that stated that this is unique because it's a narrow site, but just saying something isn't evidence of anything. It needs to be supported by something, which they haven't supported. And I was particularly concerned because of during COVID, we know that certain costs did go up, such as lumber, etc. And I searched on Marshall and Swift to see what a current cost. And it seems to be quite accurate on for New York. So, you know, I think more than words is important here.
So when
Well,
you
they're
say, go ahead, Commissioner.
I just want to say, they're not pulling their numbers out of hats, Marshall and Swift. They're using a survey of area contractors and construction professionals. So it's not like they're just saying, oh, today we're going to say $20 a square foot just because the sun is shining. No, they're constantly revising it based on contractors and other construction professionals and how they file their costs. So I just don't buy those arguments.
Mhm. And if it was such an unreliable tool, it wouldn't be such a widely used tool. I mean, I'm sure that it's used by banks to do underwriting, even by developers to underwrite a deal. They're probably not initially measuring how many square feet of sheetrock they're going to need on a job. Instead, they're using something like this to determine the basic development costs of a project to see whether they're going to go ahead and underwrite the project, right? Yeah. So
Yeah,
continue. Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Shabeta.
What's also interesting is that according to certain insurance companies, they consider Marshall and Swift always being high, as opposed to on the lower side. I'm not saying that as a fact that I believe in or not. It's just that this is some of the reading that I've come across. I have nothing more to add. I just think that if they want to make an argument,
Wait, let him finish. Let him finish, please.
if they want to make an argument, it needs to be supported in facts. Conclusory language isn't really persuasive.
It makes very sense that the Marshall and Swift could be like overestimating cost a little bit. The reason for that is even when you do construction cost estimate by hand or using a spreadsheet or something, you tend to give some extra to the owner just in case if market conditions change a little bit, if quantity got like higher a little bit. You see, every single construction cost I prepared during my life, I factored this up by 10 to 25% to make sure that if something happened, I'm gonna be covered. Because if you estimate to one of the owners that this job is gonna cost you 10,000 and he goes to bid it and he gets bid for 20,000, he's gonna go after you. So it makes very sense that this tool overestimate the cost a little bit. And despite of that, still this tool is given like very deviated numbers from the numbers that they submitted in their detailed construction cost. We should just forget about that detailed one and go with a square footage price.
Right. Okay. Thank you. We have assent from Commissioner Otley Brown. Okay. Any other comments on this? All right. Let's go on to the next one. Thank you, everyone.
Item number 29, 2020-76BZ, 8902 Fifth Avenue, Brooklyn.
We were provided with the setups of 3 of the sites that were considered but rejected to establish that a proper search in a conforming zoning district was concluded. Unfortunately, those 3 setups were not accompanied by any tie-in to what the conclusions were on those setups, which was unfortunate because I had to go through the statement of facts and find those references to those addresses. That's kind of unusual with this applicant's representative, who normally gives us a very full explanation for each submission. So I was too bad about that, but the rest of the submission was really clear and I thought helpfully constructed. So that was an outlier. They did support the assigned square footage and rental rate criteria for the search. I thought that was quite interesting about how this daycare provider actually decides on the size and the rental costs based on tuition and construction costs in the area and so on. They did provide a stroller storage room and a better located trash storage area to meet demand. So that's now on the main floor. The explanation about the parent guardian drop-off, where the adult must bring the child into or pick the child up from the classroom, was provided. So for me, that clarified the issue of double parking, which we talked about at the last hearing. Would put the driver at significant risk to be running inside with the child, and who knows how long you're in there for in time to get a ticket or even maybe towed. So I don't know how many people would risk that. Though if you had a second person, I guess, waiting in the car, then you've got double parking issues. But they are going to create or going to ask for a no standing zone so that there will be less instances of double parking. The clear interior egress direct to the outside was provided, because I was really concerned that they were going through another room to get out, which I don't think is legal. And also they modified their exterior play area by using wall affixed play equipment, which then I had to research what that was, and there's some really cool stuff out there, actually. So the proposal is to have all the play equipment on the wall, and so that it's not going to, on the exterior, so it doesn't block the route of egress, which I was concerned about. I don't know if fire department or DOB has an issue with this. We saw this in another case also, where they're using the means of egress as a play area. So that's for those two agencies to consider. I think this, there's one thing, the street elevations, I believe, are mislabeled. They're called street escape. I think the correct word is streetscape. So please correct that because it's odd. And I think those were my only comments. In terms of seeker, though, we have a lot open. We have Open DOT, who issued comments in April, and we're still awaiting a response from the applicant, who says they're working with DOT. We have Open Hazmat, a phase 2 report, found no remediation necessary, however, and that was sent to DEP on May 27th. And DEP promises a response at the end of June, but we know that they're really slammed, so we don't know how much they'll be able to respond. Air quality is also open. EAS and backup data was sent to DEP on March 24th. DEP is delayed, as I said, on reviews. Noise is open. EAS and backup data was sent also on March 24th. Landmarks is closed. When we received sign off on and the application was sent to school safety, who defers their review to the seeker revision at DOT.
Jella has a hand up.
Jella, yeah, I see. Jella Prango.
Hi. Hi. We also received today during the hearings, the letter of no objection from the fire department.
Okay.
But they did have one comment in the letter. I can just read it to you. We respectfully request the Board of Standards and Appeals direct the architect to revise the note on plan 3 of 11 that panic hardware will be provided on the stair side. So there's a current note on the plans that says panic hardware will be provided to open towards the stairs only. It's on the far right side. So it looks like they want, the way I'm reading it, that they want an edit on that note.
So say again, the note should say what?
It says that panic hardware will be provided on the stair side.
Stair side, okay. Oh. Panic hardware on the stair side, okay. Oh, okay, thank you. But it's on the egress side. So which floor are we talking about for the panic hardware?
First floor.
The first floor.
Yeah.
So when he's talking about that, he's talking about the door that goes from the stair to the exterior.
No.
You know what? I think we should get him to comment on it.
It looks like it's going out into the play area. There's an elevator and 2 stairs.
Yeah, so let's get him to comment on it at the hearing, because I'm not clear about which stair they mean.
There's already an existing note there. It's very similar. It's just a modification.
Okay, so we'll get to it at the hearing, because I think the architect will need to understand specifically. Okay, all right, thanks. What else? Okay, so then Vice Chair Shanda.
Thank you. My comments are limited only to the traffic. At the last hearing, I had comments regarding the impact on local traffic. To that end, the applicant provided the operational plan, and according to the operational plan, there would not be the possibility of parents and guardians to double park. I will accept that as a reasonable conclusion, so that the parents and guardians will be arriving by those who will be arriving by private vehicles will have to park on street. The applicant also states that by providing a no parking along the 107-foot long frontage of the building along 89th Street and with staggered drop-off pickup, there would be adequate on-street parking. So basically the 107-foot frontage will allow for maximum 7 vehicles. So during the hours of 7:30 a.m. and 8 a.m. and 8 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. in the morning and 4:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. and 5 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. in the evening, the daycare is projected to have most number of children dropped off and picked up respectively, which comes to 35 children. So factoring in, as the applicant stated, 30% of these students will be arriving by private transportation. That comes to about 10 private vehicles. 10 children will be coming either by taxi or private vehicles. So there are meter parking spaces on 5th Avenue and on the north side of 89th Street from 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. So I do not foresee an issue with finding parking on street during the morning drop-off, but I would still like the applicant to elaborate as to why it would not be an issue during pickup. Otherwise, I'm satisfied with the revised plan and all the documentations provided.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Otley Brown?
I have no questions.
Okay, Commissioner Sheta?
Thank you, Chair. I believe they addressed everything and I have no further comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Shibeta?
Nothing further from me on this, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The next item is item 30, 2019-173BZ, 18701 Hillside Avenue, Queens.
Okay. Ooh. Okay. Sorry, getting there just a second. Okay. I thought the submission was very responsive with the trash enclosure now inside the building. Thank you. And all elevations with materials provided and a section through the slope landscaped area behind the retaining wall. My only comment, please key the details into the plans. That should be a mantra that all architects pursue, including dating the drawings as of the date of the submission or close to. We do have open seeker, however. DOT is open. The submission dated May 26th, including new data collection and revised traffic study was sent to DOT on May 27th. On June 6th, DOT asked consultant to provide current signal timings and proposed schematics for the improvements detailed on page 15 of the traffic study, which they submitted later that day. And I won't get into all those details, but anyway, we still have DOT open. And if Tracy wants to get into more detail for the benefit of the applicant, please do. Otherwise, we don't need to. That's your call.
Okay. Well, they also submitted a schematic mitigation recently that DOT asked for. So that's under review. And the Signals Department of DOT issued one comment today, which they have to address.
Okay. Okay, thanks. Commissioner Vice Chair Shanda.
Thank you. Couple of things. If you go to Z002 drawing sheet, the notes on the plan, and specifically I'm referring to the notes that is right above the box that says proposed signage, Madam Chair. Do you have the Z002 drawing?
No, I'm not ready yet.
Okay. So anyway, there is a box that says proposed signage, and above that there is a note that says existing bus stop sign in bracket Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q17 to be relocated 7 foot east per New York City DOT request.
Yes.
The reason I'm stating that is DOT's late correspondence from May 13th refers to relocating the bus stop west of Chelsea Street, which would be on the other side of the intersection. So Ms. Benke, please take note of that and confirm with DOT as to the exact location of the DOT bus stop.
Okay, so wait a second. I'm looking at ZO2 and there's
Yeah.
existing bus stop sign Q76, Q77, and 68 to remain, it says. Then there's another one to the right of that on Hillside that says existing sign Q2, 317 to remain. Where are you seeing?
I'm looking at the sign that is right above the box that says proposed signage, the legend, and above that, where the existing curb cut to be closed.
Yes.
Below it, it says existing bus stop sign Q1, Q2, Q3, Q17 to be relocated 7 foot.
Oh, wait a minute. You're on ZO2.
Right.
I'm looking at a set of drawings. Oh, my drawings are too old. Okay, I opened an old one. Sorry.
Oh.
Okay. Oh, but now they have bus stop approval, right?
Right. So I just want to make sure this is the, it needs to be consistent with whatever DOT's letter is suggesting.
The email from DOT said.
Yeah, from May 13th,
Yeah.
DOT correspondence from May 13th refers to relocating the bus stop west of Chelsea Street.
Yes. West of Chelsea. Okay.
That would be on the other side of the intersection of Hillside and Chelsea.
To west of Chelsea. Okay, whatever. So they have something in mind, whatever it is.
Yeah, so I just want to bring that to there and have that fixed. I would also recommend that the applicant coordinate with Parks in providing an additional street tree on Hillside Avenue where the easternmost curb cut is going to be closed. And especially if there is not going to be a bus stop either there. At the last hearing, I had expressed concern about allowing the Chelsea Street curb cut to be a full movement driveway. Specifically, I was concerned about allowing vehicles to enter from Chelsea Street and whether that would add vehicular traffic to this residential street. The applicant has not responded to it in its latest submission, and I did not see it referenced in the traffic study either. That's all.
Okay. It's interesting. Now that you brought this up about the relocation of the bus stop, it's sort of what's on there versus that letter bear no resemblance to each other. The 7 feet is so specific that you would think there's something that says move it 7 feet.
Yeah. I found this drawing a little bit difficult to read. There's too many notations, and I know they're trying to accommodate the DOT comments and the other traffic elements. So it is difficult to comb through it and find where what is, but this just stood out in light of the recent email.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Thank you. West of Chelsea. I think we will relocate the bus stops west of Chelsea. Maybe they've got their cardinal points mixed up. I think it almost sounds like all of the bus stops that are on the east of Chelsea Street will be relocated. It almost sounds like that. And then without specificity. But anyway, never mind. We don't have to guess. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Otley-Brown.
So the applicant said they had gotten approval for the relocation of the bus stop, which I thought was going to be a permanent relocation. But when I read the memo from DOT, it said it's a relocation during construction. So then I was confused. It didn't seem to say anything about it being permanent. So that was one of my questions. And then the other one had to do with the traffic study. So they talk about their 2023 proposed no build scenario, and this is concerning the level of service ratings. So for the 2023 proposed no build, they talk about the different intersections and how they expect them to operate the same way as they did in 2018, more or less, that the addition of just cars due to, life is not going to disturb the ratings, except for the Hillside and Chelsea intersection, which will be a rating of B during weekday AM midday and Saturday midday, and a level of service rating of E on weekday evening peaks. Then when they go to the 2023 proposed build, they basically say that there isn't going to be a major change in ratings from the no build, the 2023 no build. And then they go on to quote the Hillside Chelsea intersection as having a B rating for all peak periods. But I thought that it had a rating of E on the weekday evenings. And so is that just an error, or am I just not understanding this? And those are my two questions.
Okay, on weekdays, weekends or weekdays?
Weekday evenings.
Weekday eve, okay. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to thank them for the responsive submission. This is the third hearing. This case is about to be like wrapped up. Remember, when we started this case, the applicant was so responsive to flip the design of the entire station and change it entirely. And I believe that was fruitful for the applicant. This is like I said, this is third hearing, and the case is about to conclude. So I want to thank them for that. Regarding the relocation of the sign, yes, I was also confused regarding that of the station. The letter is kind of confusing. It says, I'm not sure whether the relocation will happen during construction or it's gonna stay after that, or it's just going to be that relocation. It's going to be just for the period during construction, and then it will revert back to the original location. So they need to clarify on that. Other than that, I have nothing else to add. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Shabeta.
I have nothing to add. No comments on this. Thank you, Chair.
It actually, I'm just looking at that email. It's pretty specific. It says, once the project is completed, please inform our office so that we will bring the bus stops back accordingly. So it's only construction. Our
Okay.
office needs the construction start and end date along with the contractor's contact information to send an invoice for the bus stop relocation. These are construction relocations.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it seems like the one on the plan, there might be two separate issues going on, but the applicant can confirm. Like the 7 feet thing might be a different issue.
Ah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item is new cases. 2019-206BZ, 5122 Roosevelt Avenue, Queens.
Just a second.
Mhm.
This is Roosevelt Avenue, right?
Mhm.
Oops. New case. We have proof of service of initial application to officials and of notice of hearing to officials and neighbors. Community board recommends denial, saying the project is in an R6 zone with a commercial overlay, which would permit a building of approximately 12 stories as of right. However, with the proposed community facility, the building reaches 17 stories. The proposed 90-unit residential tower above the proposed 4-story community facility is speculative and out of character with the neighborhood. The applicant has no development partner for the community facility space, and there are no plans for affordable housing. The project will have significant impact on transportation and community infrastructure. There's also a letter of opposition from Councilmember Van Bramer. And I'll just read one thing, that my constituents express apprehension about the fact that the building of this size will have on rents in the area, increase in housing costs, and so on. I thought the application, so those were the testimony. The application I thought was very well prepared. Ultimately, it didn't start off that way, but ultimately following applicants' revised submissions in response to our project manager's really excellent comments. I want to thank Darryl Ruffin for his excellent comments and follow-up. This site is located in an R6 C2-3 zoning district. which permits, when the site does not fall within the LaGuardia flight path, height factor buildings of any height, provided that they do not penetrate the sky exposure plane or exceed the allotted use-related FAR. So on a very, very large site, it's possible to build a building really of any height if you have enough floor area. The issue presented to this board by the section 73-66 special permit, which is before us, is whether a building located within the flight path poses a threat to aviation. Section 73-03 of the zoning resolution applies to all special permits considered by this board and directs the commissioners to also consider and make certain other findings, among them finding A, that the board shall make all of the findings required in the sections of this chapter, and shall find that under the conditions and safeguards imposed, the hazards or disadvantages to the community at large of such special permit use or modification of use, in this case, parking or bulk regulations, which is what we're talking about, are outweighed by the advantages to be derived by the community by the grant of such special permit. And in each case, the board shall determine that the adverse effect, if any, on the privacy, quiet, light, and air in the neighborhood of such special permit bulk regulation modification will be minimized by appropriate condition and its governing location of the site, design, and method of operation. I'm reading this for the benefit of any of the community that may be listening. This is the parameters of our review, because our real concern is about safety to aviation, but with some ability to consider negative impacts on the neighborhood. So with respect to this above finding, the statement of facts states that the proposed 90 units of housing addresses the concern that 42.7% of households in Community District 2 are rent burdened at 35% or more of income spent on rent. So I would like the applicant to respond to how the project, to ask how the project is responding to that issue. That's in their statement of facts, so I don't really understand why it's stated unless there's affordable housing offered here, which we're not addressing, but they say it in their statement of facts. Given community concern about this project, I will read the portion of the statement of facts that was prepared by the applicant that discusses the relative benefits of the added height. The community should note that the permitted height absent this special permit is 263 to 273 feet to the top of the bulkhead. And the requested height is 310 feet, which is the equivalent of 4 more stories only. So it's not really an enormous difference in height. Let me just say. So, and in terms of what it says in the statement of facts, it's there would be no hazards associated with the height in the proposed development according to the Federal Aviation Administration determination and the Port Authority letter. Moreover, this proposed special permit provides advantages to the community because it would facilitate the creation of new transit-oriented housing in Queens Community District 2, where, according to the US Census Bureau, as I read before, 42.7% of households are rent burdened, spending 35% or more of their income on rent. The development of new housing facilitated by the proposed special permit would also increase the available inventory in Queens Community District 2, which currently has a low rental vacancy rate of 3.2%. In addition, the proposed development would provide opportunities for commercial growth and employment in the area with new local retail, office, and medical office space. The commercial and community facility uses in the development would serve the surrounding area with new places to shop, dine, work, and seek medical care accessible by the number 7 subway and several bus lines. This mixed-use development would also enhance the pedestrian experience along Roosevelt Avenue with active ground floor uses in contrast to the prior industrial use and fenced surface parking lot at the subject site. The development is designed using alternate front setback regulations at its Roosevelt Avenue frontage to increase light and air at the street level rather than being built to the street line. So that's their, that's the applicant's description of benefits to the community as compared to detriment that might be perceived by the additional height of 4 stories. The drawings are complete and properly express heights in NAVD 88 and average above mean sea level. We have a site survey that is consistent with plan data and both, as I say, FAA and Port Authority sign off. The seeker study review is closed. This is a type 2 action and a revised submission of that. The seeker application was made June 7th. And that's it. If I'm correct, Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong. Otherwise, we can go.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Because I have 2 sets of notes, so that was the more recent one. Okay, thank you. Commissioner, Vice Chair Shanda.
Thank you. This is very much in my neighborhood. I go by this site quite often. And something to bring to everybody's attention is that right next to the project site, next to on Roosevelt Avenue is the 51st Avenue number 7 subway stop. So there is a number 7 station stop right there. So what the applicant is doing is using the alternate height and setback. The building is being set back from Roosevelt Avenue frontage, which basically allows for a much wider sidewalk along Roosevelt Avenue and also allows for an easier access into the subway station. I actually just want to highlight that. And I think that is something, so if you look at this as the streetscape, the building is already 6 stories high. This is the subject site. The building is 6-story high and the subway entrance is on right next to the property. So having the building set back allows for a easier pedestrian movement along this frontage and also better accessibility. And across the street is a city parkland. So I think in a way by doing this alternate setback, the applicant is creating a much more spacious experience along the number 7 subway and the subway station entrance. I just kind of wanted to put my pitch into it in terms of how I reviewed the project. And but based on what the findings that we have to meet, I believe, Madam Chair, you have addressed it. The applicant does meet all the requirements of the FAA, and I have no additional comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Ali Brown.
I have no questions.
Okay. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I have no further comments. I just wanted to ask the Vice Chair, did you visit the site? we all got a site visit now.
Right.
I don't, what happening? I don't leave it to my memory. I do go by it very often, but I wanted to check anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Shabeta.
Thank you, Chair. I understand the community's concerns, and I appreciate your statements, Chair, with regard to the limited scope of our review. I do want to say that the applicant did express some tangible benefits to, and also as reiterated by Commissioner Shanda, some tangible evidence to the benefits that this development would bring to the community. I have no comments, no further comments.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, the final item is item number 32, 2021-12 BZ, 250 Westervelt Avenue, Staten Island.
Other new case. We have proof of service of initial application to officials and of notice of hearing to officials and neighbors. Community board recommends approval with 1 abstention. We have one letter in support. Although this is a 7221 variance request, the applicant supplied denials for 2 unrelated sites requesting permission to reconstruct under 54-41 section of the zoning resolution, which Department of Buildings interprets as having a 2-year sunset. I wish someone, frankly, would bring an appeals case to this board to review DOB's interpretation of that provision, because their interpretation prevents as of right development on these little lots that had houses. The uniqueness study shows this is one of only 4 vacant corner lots. The side and front yard regulations would result in a 9-foot, 10-inch wide building. The side yard regulations require a minimum of 5 foot 2 inches on the side lot line, because section 23-461C requires that 8 feet be maintained between buildings. So that equals, when you consider what's on the other site, that equals 5 foot 2 inches side yard. I didn't see in the statement of fact any explanation for why the 16-foot width of the home and the 3 foot 10-inch front yard are the minimum necessary. Had they come up with that? However, there is a study that establishes the requested front yard depth is typical of corner lots in the area. So the width of the home and the depth of the front yard needs to be substantiated. I also didn't see proof of non-common ownership with adjoining properties since 1961. I did my own research, but I only go so far with it. That's really the job of the applicant. It looks like New York City foreclosed on this lot. City of New York foreclosed on this lot 25 and lot 26 adjacent in 1984. So that probably would be an intervening event if the properties were held in common prior to that. I didn't verify whether they were held in common prior to that. Applicant, however, must have a title search done to go back to 1961 to show no common ownership with lots 23 or 26. The house is taking a 20% floor area bonus for a location under a sloping roof. But in this case, the 3rd floor is under an attic floor. So again, I'm not sure that DOB allows this. We've seen this up many times and it's really not clear to me that what's allowed. So I just want to say, the question of floor area is not before us. We're not being asked for a floor area waiver. So we need to be clear in the resolution eventually that the BSA is not granting a floor area waiver and takes no position whether the 3rd floor qualifies for the 20% reduction under a sloping roof pursuant to section 23-142B. And my only other comment is, why can't more street trees be planted on site? 4 of 5 required will be off-site, and I don't see why. They need to show on the site plan obstructions that DOT or Department of Parks cite as incompatible distances to street trees. Otherwise, they have to provide the street trees. Okay, those are my comments. Vice Chair Shanda.
Thank you. Since the subject site is in the Special Hillside Preservation District, I looked through the Hillside Special District text to see the applicability of it. And given the site's slope condition, I think the site qualifies for either as a tier 1 or a tier 2 site. I think it's tier 2, and that is partly because the applicant itself in one of its statement called it a tier 2 site. And that is a site with an average slope greater than 10%. And based on that, the lot coverage is very specific for a tier 2 site. And the applicant needs to indicate that it meets the lot coverage requirement for such a tier 2 site. And per table 1 of the zoning resolution 119-211, for a slope condition of 10 to 14.9%, the 14.9% slope, lot coverage requirement is 22.5%. And for a 15 to 19.9% slope, lot coverage requirement is 20%, and 20 to 24.9% lot coverage requirement is 17.5%. So what I would like the applicant to confirm is what is the proposed slope condition, and if, because it's saying the proposed lot coverage is 19.9%, that meets the requirement. So the applicant needs to ensure that it meets the slope, one of the 3 tiers of the slope conditions.
Don't you need city planning certification? When
That's the next one I'm getting to.
Mhm.
That is one of the things. So doesn't the project require any authorization from the City Planning Commission regarding lot coverage, landscaping per Hillside Special District? Also, why was an authorization pursuant to zoning resolution section 119-318 not considered at City Planning Commission, which is a modification of certain bulk, and that is applicable to tier 2 sites to variate required front yard. So in this case, that would qualify because that's all it is before us. Since it has to go to City Planning Commission, why not do it all in one go? That is a question I have. With regards to the findings, uniqueness, I did not have any issues with it. The only thing I have a note. Oh, my only suggestion is that the applicant should maintain the same numbering system in the statement of fact and the vacant corner lot study. In one, it's using ABC, and the other one, it's using 1, 2, 3. So that's all. With regards to the neighborhood character, I do not have any issues. I think it meets it. I do need to look at the title search. I looked at the Egress and it wasn't very clear because it only goes as far as 2006 or something like that.
Right.
With regards to the minimal, I do think it is minimal, but the basic threshold question I have is the City Planning Commission authorization and why couldn't all it be done in one place? That's all.
Right, good, thank you, that was good, okay. Commissioner Ollie Brown.
I would love for them to sketch out the as of right home and not just leave it to a site plan in order to bolster their point that it's too narrow at 10 feet wide. And I need them to provide the supporting study for how the minimum variance is a 16-foot wide home by showing a study of other corner home built with that are have building widths on a 25-foot wide lot.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Sheta.
Thank you, Chair. I have no further comments to add. Thank you.
Commissioner Shibata.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of points of clarification. I didn't. The CB, did the community board support or support modifications? Because I noticed there was one X mark and one check mark, and I'm not sure which one took which one won really. I didn't see a signature page on the statement of facts. I just wanted to make sure it was complete. And I do believe that, notwithstanding all the comments earlier, I do believe that this does meet the findings, although I certainly would appreciate the responses to the other commissioners. And if this does need to go to city planning, then they should probably do it all before city planning. I agree with Commissioner Shanta.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay, so that concludes the public review session for June 15th, 2021, 2 p.m. session. Will now commence with the public hearing. So we're now in the public hearing, June 15th, 2021, 2 p.m. session. The first item up is 2019-192 BZ, 16 Harrison Place, Brooklyn.
Good afternoon, Todd Dale for the applicant, and I believe Jessica Corris is also here with respect to the financial analysis.
Okay, raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board to respond on city board member questions?
I do affirm.
Okay, Mr. Dale, please proceed.
Great. So we did listen to the review session and heard all of the comments, more limited set of comments, and I will address a couple of them quickly, and then others that tend to be more focused on the financials, and I'll defer to Ms. Corris on those. First, with respect to the fire department letter of objection, we have received it. We're aware of the typical design that the fire department requests, and we'll work with the architect to get it changed to provide the access that they typically request for the next submission. With respect to just a quick comment the vice chair made as to the slope foundation for the proposed versus the artist's studio as of right scenario and the office development scenario. The intent behind that was that for the residential proposed development, since the majority of the cellar would be used for storage, it doesn't need to extend and it does save costs, both with respect to construction and licensing agreements. In contrast, we wanted to present a more realistic scenario for the artist studio, which were already plans approved by Department of Buildings, but also for the office scenario. The 58 Grattan, which we sought to mimic as much as possible, had the full cellar. And it also makes sense that for a retail establishment, you would want the full cellar because, simply put, it's more active use. There's more occupancy at any given time versus the residential, which is primarily used for storage and then the part of one unit.
But then it's not apples to apples. I don't get it. Either you're providing, doing underpinning or you're not doing underpinning. The underpinning is obviously a significant cost and affects the construction period and so on. It's not apples to apples. So I don't think that's appropriate to have one cellar condition on one and not on the other. So I think we should change that.
We can do that. The difference, though, and Jessica can speak to this, though, the Marshall and Swift, which the board seems to prefer, actually I don't believe gives you the opportunity to change things based on underpinning, so it wouldn't affect it. It would just affect it based on floor area, but she can speak more to that. So it wouldn't change as much as you think with respect to the comparison between the scenarios. But you also, we might as well go to Jessica now with respect to the Class A and the Marshall and Swift and the cut sheets and some of the more specific questions. I'll let her address those points and then we can do any follow-up after that.
Hi, thanks, Todd. This is Jessica Corres from Course Consulting here on behalf of the applicant. Good afternoon. I was in attendance at your virtual executive session and heard lots of the comments. And last hearing, I also heard that, the interest in using Marshall and Swift. And I prefaced the use of Marshall and Swift in the response letter, mostly because we felt an obligation that as professionals to distinguish that the original cost estimate provided by the cost estimator is always going to be more accurate and more specific than a online tool. And really the cost estimator can provide a better breakdown and has more experience and can take into account the true costs of a construction project, specifically when a site is this small and there's issues and inefficiencies when you're building on a lot this small. A tall and narrow construction is always going to be more expensive than a short and wide building. And there's really limited workspace here. You can only have a certain amount of trades in at a time. You can only bring in so many materials at one time. Only one truck can pull up at a time. Just the overall logistics of, construction on the site, because the costs of construction isn't just materials, it's labor and materials. And so we have to keep in mind that there are actual people coming in to do this work that can't bump elbows, that can't be on top of one another. When you're doing the rough end, they're going to have to space each other out, and that's really going to have an effect that Marshall and Swift just can't accommodate. That being said, we were happy to accommodate the request and look into it. It's different than the last time I used it. It's all web-based. It's, you fill in the details, you select the type of things that you're looking for, and it plugs it in for you. It's really plug and play. And to their credit, they're making it more user-friendly. There's no more books. They don't send you sheets in the mail anymore that you have to update your 3-ring binder. They've really come into this century. So unfortunately, there's no sheets for me to provide you, no cut sheets. The details that they provided me on the estimate that I attached to the revised report is what I was provided with. It does break down the systems and the estimate in the number of units based on square footages, and then a unit cost, and then the
And
total cost.
You're going to have to provide us with your decision-making regarding what type of construction you've used and what
Sure.
cost factors you've chosen. So
Okay,
you're going to have to provide us with what your inputs were.
I can do that.
And
I'll go back.
I just want to comment on something. I do
Okay.
believe that a tool like this considers the size of the construction, the size of the site, the like height of the building, whether this building has underpinning excavation support or not. And if you do not believe that, you could run a very simple exercise. Just run 1-story building or 2-story building, one like with a cellar and one without a cellar, and take a look at the square footage price comparison between both. You're gonna see a difference. That means that they factor in the excavation support and they factor in the underpinning. Regarding the height of the building, you could do the same thing. You could run an exercise with, let's say, a 10,000 square feet building, which is 5-story, and a 10,000 square feet building, which is just 1-story building. And you could see the difference again between the square footage price between the two buildings.
I
And
totally
if you
agree.
and if you find like for a tall building that square footage rate is similar to a 1-story building, I would suggest that you contact these guys and tell them that you need to update this in the software. But I don't believe that whoever prepared this tool is a very experienced guy. They are a team of very experienced personnel. And the way I'm looking at it, that the input, the class of the construction, the height, the quality, the number of sections, I believe this is a very, I would be very confident in a tool like this. And we shouldn't be like undermining this tool like that.
Okay. No, I don't, I was trying to compliment it just a moment ago that it has improved. So I don't disagree with you. Tall and narrow buildings are definitely more expensive to build than short and wide. And
regarding the underpinning, I believe one of the two adjacent buildings, I'm looking at an aerial photo right now, and it sounds like it has a cellar. So if you do have a cellar on that side, you don't need underpinning. On the other side, I'm not sure what is the case, but we didn't get an existing condition survey for like the buildings next door.
Todd, is that something you can address?
I can reach out to see if there's a existing survey, and we'll submit what we have, but I can review that. I'll make a note of it.
Thank you.
So back to some of the more specific comments I heard on the Marshall and Swift estimate. Commissioner Otley-Brown, you mentioned that there's a line for soft costs, and it does provide a architect's fee at the very top of the estimate, but I zeroed it out. I didn't want to double count, like you said, any sort of soft costs. So the unit costs in the estimate are just purely for labor and materials, and not for any sort of financing or fees or anything that we include.
Marshall and Swift is taking into account the labor costs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Labor and
so
materials.
literally the only soft costs you should have are the ones that are not calculated into the Marshall and Swift cost factor.
That's everything, I think. I mean, our
You still
schedule.
have soft costs, and you should
Yeah.
have virtually none. You should have like 3 lines, if that much.
But our soft costs are for filing fees and financing fees.
The
Those are-
filing fees are included.
but
You know what, I don't have offhand, but I did broach this subject before with another analyst at about half a year ago,
Okay,
talking about which soft costs were actually covered by Marshall and Swift and incorporated into that cost factor. And it's pretty easy to find.
I'll
I just
take a
have to go
look.
into my
That's fine.
stuff and find
If-
it, and then I can send it to the project manager.
That'd be
and they
awesome.
can forward it to you.
Yes, I was gonna say if you could pass it through staff, and I'll also do a little research. They do have, you know, there's a 1,000-page manual that is just calling my name after this. So I will take a look. So in terms of Class A, that came up a couple times. I was able to look that up before the hearing. And it's not so much an indication of marble or gold leaf or gilding that you would normally think of high technology in Class A office buildings. But Marshall and Swift define Class A buildings as fireproof, protected structural steel frame, reinforced concrete, exterior walls of masonry, concrete, studs. There's information that I can provide on this that CoreLogic, the parent company, puts out. So I don't mind providing those details.
So that's confusing. So what would a Class A steel curtain wall building be?
That is, it breaks it down by use and then by, you know, not necessarily by indication of finishes, but by the features of the construction.
Sure, just to.
Is there a, can I just say, is there a category that starts with A and goes down the list from better to worse?
Yes, there's this, I actually have it in front of me now. And just for example, the difference between A and B, floor, roof, and walls are exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
The frame for an A is structural steel columns and beams, fireproof with masonry, concrete plaster, or other non-combustible material. In contrast, B would be reinforced concrete columns and beams, fire-resistant construction. So it's primarily fire safety seems to be the grand difference between A, B, C, D, and S, which are the 5 classes are available. We can submit that chart with the materials, but as Jessica was saying, it's primarily, it's not what you would expect, like fabulous lobby versus, you know.
Is there a construction quality listing with different ratings of construction quality?
I'll have to do that homework.
We'll have to do that. We didn't find that in the time since the review session.
Yeah, because there's a way to differentiate between the quality of the project in Marshall and Swift. And so to ensure that you're not using the highest top quality for a specialty building of its type, I would need you to provide me that backup information.
Understand. I'll look into it and I'm happy to respond in writing.
Is it a requirement that the building will be sprinkled?
I believe that's.
I'm not sure if it's listed as, I don't know if Inspector Daly's around. I don't know if we have anything on the plan as far as sprinklers. I mean,
But my question is, in the estimate you submitted, it says that the system is sprinkled. Is this a requirement by FDNY for that specific building?
I can't answer that. I did include it.
I'll check with the architect unless Inspector Daly wants to weigh in now, but we can check with the architect and add that in a submission.
And if it's not required, please make it without sprinkler, because I believe this will add to the cost.
Okay, so noted.
Yes. And then Commissioner Shanda had a question on the soft costs and the lesser variance. And I took a quick look at it, and there is a difference in the rental commissions because you are having a broker rent out and receive commission for the office space. And then let's see. There is let's see, Commissioner Shetta had a comment on the 5 stories of the building, and I did see 5 stories, but I think the proposed has a loft, and the way I accommodated that was by providing a smaller floor it might have counted as a 5th floor when it added it up. So that was the only thing I could think of between the review session and preparing for the hearing. So, but I'll take a closer look at the estimates again.
Also, does Marshall and Swift differentiate between a cellar and a basement?
I'll have to find out.
Because you have it listed as a basement. My recollection is that a cellar is considered more or less unfinished and may be cheaper to construct than a basement.
Sure.
So check on that.
Of course. It is unfinished. I do have that noted in the estimate on the second page where it talks about, or the bottom of the first page where it talks about the basement occupancy unfinished type. So I'll make a note of it and look into it some more.
I also have seen some discrepancy with regard to the floor area or the size of the building in the construction cost estimate, the detailed one, and the drawings versus Marshall and Swift. It's a bit confusing for me. Maybe because I'm new to looking at Marshall and Swift estimate, but if you have the PDF on page 68, page 68 of the PDF, it's listing the area as 4,875. When I looked at the construction cost estimate and the drawings, I couldn't find that number. Same thing for the other two proposals.
So I did use the exterior dimension of it. It was including the outside of the perimeter that was actually provided by the cost estimator. Since I don't have, I'd have to get that from the architect since I don't have the CAD and can't do the calculations. But when the cost estimator did their takeoff, they did from the exterior of the building. And I think that's why the square footage is slightly different.
But don't you have this in the drawings? You could simply add the areas of different floors and just get the gross floor area and put it in?
If you'd like me to use the gross, I can use the gross, but sure, it shouldn't be a problem.
Thank you.
So we have a nice clear list of the items, and I think, not to oversimplify, but it seems a lot of this is helping to further clarify and define just what is involved in the online Marshall and Swift, providing more information to the board so each of you can review and have a little more clear understanding of what's involved and what's not involved. But we have that checklist, and we'll also go over the hearing again, and we'll just make sure that we provide the clarity. But as in the current report, as it shows, there really, at this point, really is not a huge or significant difference between the various costs, between what the cost estimator provided and what Marshall and Swift provided. And as noted, for the second as of right scenario, we only used Marshall and Swift. We did not use the professional estimator. So there's only that one figure. But we'll get more clarity and detail as we learn. Well, I say we, but as Jessica learns a lot more about this big manual of Marshall and Swift, and provide that full detail to you.
Okay. All right, great. Any other questions, comments from commissioners that should be addressed? Chief Daly?
Yes, please.
Chief Daly wants to speak.
I just want to comment on what's just said. I believe that the conclusion that's just described by Mr. Dale is based on the assumption that Marshall and Swift does not factor in the soft cost. If you account for the soft cost factored in Marshall and Swift, you're gonna see a difference between Marshall and Swift and the other detailed construction cost estimate. Like I said, ranging between 20 and 35%. Marshall and Swift is less by that margin. So just wanted to put this comment on the record.
Thank you. Thank you. Chief Daly, did you want to add something?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I heard Commissioner Shedder's comments earlier regarding the sprinkler system. While it's not a requirement by the fire department, it is a requirement of the building department to provide sprinklers. And it is a fire department requirement to provide a non-notification fire alarm system. So I just wanted to clarify that issue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So we'll include that information that's consistent across the report.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so then let's go to the public.
The case we are currently discussing is 2019-192BZ, 16 Harrison Place, Brooklyn. The call-in number is 646-558-8656. The Zoom webinar ID number is 918-0831-9516. The passcode is 660655 should you need it. You can, after you call in, you can press *9 to raise your hand to speak and *6 to unmute. If you are in the Zoom room, please raise your Zoom hand. Once again, this is 16 Harrison Place, Brooklyn.
So if you're in the Zoom room, there are a few names I don't recognize. Please raise your Zoom hand. Okay, how much time to respond to the issues?
I'll stay, I mean, as far as the plan-related items, it would be very quick. I'm surprised if they're, wouldn't be surprised if they're not done already with respect to the fire department request. Also, before, you know, Jessica speaks the time that she needs, I do know that, I just want to confirm we're in receipt of the DEP comment regard to the EAS. The environmental consultant's aware of that and is in the process of addressing that. So I don't know how much time that'll take, but Jessica, you can speak to how much time you might need, because it seems like the majority is just a little Marshall and Swift clarification for your report.
Yeah, it's going to take me some time to do the research to make sure that I can answer these questions fully and accurately, but and then redoing the estimates and writing the letter. I'd like a few weeks, if that's possible.
What are the few weeks? Is it 4 weeks? Is it 6 weeks? Is it what?
Ooh, 1, 2, and then 4th of July. It's 4 weeks, please.
Okay. So 4 weeks means maybe a September hearing. Okay, so I'm not sure if we can put you on the September hearing, but anyway. So it's, yeah. One of the things though, while you were all talking, I was just, I don't have a subscription to Marshall and Swift, so I can't open it, but you know how the internet is, there are things in PDF form that you can find from Marshall and Swift. And I did find, you were saying there's no cut sheet, but in fact, what I found was a Marshall and Swift by category, just one category. So it talks about 492, which is the category for the shell of an office building, just to use that as an example, right? And there's what's known as a quality selection guide that goes from A to S with levels of quality within each category. So class A is a fireproof structural steel frame. What they call low quality is minimum cost walls and fenestration. Average is brick, concrete, or metal and glass panels. Good is good metal and solar glass brick, best precast concrete panel. Excellent is best metal or stone curtain panel, solar glass, atrium, highly ornamental. Whether or not that's relevant in this case. The next class is reinforced concrete frame. The next class is masonry bearing walls. The next is wood or steel frame, pole frame, whatever that's supposed to be. Metal frame and walls is the last class. So we do need to see those criteria. In order to begin your study, you look at which one am I of those things. And in this case, for example, the HVAC system seems to be assumed in the numbers, whereas I looked up other uses where there is a separate line for HVAC systems. So, so when you're going through your 1,000 pages, which I hope actually aren't pages, there's criteria that you have to use to set your standard, and we should see what the choices are, not the choice you made, but what the choices are, right? And then that way we can verify that you made the right choice, because arguably you're not in the best metal or stone curtain panels, certainly not. Solar glass atrium, highly ornamental. You're not that. So you can't be an excellent Class A fireproof structural steel frame. And then it talks about other things. It says best marble and carpet, top lobby finishes. Also guessing that's not the case, right? And it's very specific. It even in one case for the reinforced concrete, it talks about vinyl wall coverings, terrazzo, best veneers, luminous ceilings. It's very specific. So you need to do that, okay?
Sure, I understand, and I'll see how the quality selection guide overlaps with the web-based portal that I was using, and see if I can, kind of match the two up, so I can provide the detail you're looking for.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
no problem.
and you may need to speak to the Marshall and Swift.
I foresee a call to customer service coming up.
Exactly. How do I set this up?
Help.
Building typology, because you already know what the building's made of. It says it right there on the drawings. So you can talk to somebody and say, I have a building on a site this big, it's made out of this kind of stuff. Which one of these criteria do I use? And then instead of faking it or like making it up as you go along,
I don't want to do
you be sent to the right place, right?
that. Understood. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. I think we're set, right?
Right.
Before
Yep.
we
Thank you.
submit. Thank you.
Have a good afternoon.
Thank
You
you
too.
very much.
The next item is 2020-76BZ, 8902 Fifth Avenue, Brooklyn.
How are you? I have a couple people with me. I'm not sure who's still here actually, but I have Cheryl and Luis are part of my team. I don't think they need to speak though, given the comments, but you may want to have them sworn in just in case.
Okay, where are they? I don't see. Cheryl Swiker.
Yep.
And who else? That's it?
Luis Rojas.
I don't see that.
Okay, I don't think it's necessary, so it's fine.
Okay, let me swear you in. Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
I do.
Okay,
Good
please
afternoon.
proceed.
Jay Goldstein for the applicant. I attended the review session. With regards to the site search and the setups, they were keyed to the map that was previously submitted.
So that's
and
the
the
problem.
map had a chart on it that, so at the hearing, we were asked to just submit the setups. We didn't want to resubmit the maps, but
So let me just
I'll
tell
take the
you.
hit.
Okay, I don't need to give you a hit, but just let me tell you how the commissioners review stuff. We get a pile of stuff and we review that. And
Right.
it takes us a lot of time to try to remember, did they submit that in March, or was that like in January, or maybe it was October? And that means we have to open all the folders, they're all PDFs, and like go scrolling down. And in the
No
case,
problem.
I never found that map. I instead had to look at the statement of facts to see if there was any drawbacks. So just so you know,
I
whenever,
got it. Going forward, I have it.
let me just finish my sentence.
Yeah.
Whenever you submit something, always tie the something to the specific, so we don't have to go digging through the old files. Okay.
Okay, no problem. With regards to the plans, Chief Daly's here, but I believe I know the note that he wants the panic bar on the inside of the door for the staircase, so that you push the panic bar and it opens the door outwards to get into the path of egress, as opposed to the way the note is written that basically you're going to push the panic bar, on the outside going into the staircase, which I don't think is correct.
But the staircase doesn't even swing. This door doesn't.
I think the note is just a mistake. So that's Chief Daly can.
Okay.
Chief Daly can opine, but I think that was the point.
Okay.
Chief Daly?
Okay. Thank you, Tony. Yes, the note says panic hardware will be provided to open towards the stairs only. So it should be that panic hardware to be provided on the stair side, so the doors would open into the open play area towards the means of egress out to
No
the street.
problem.
So that the sentence to me meant that they're going to put a panic hardware on the exterior side of the door and then going into the stairwell.
Right.
So
I'll change it. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
And same with the street elevations. I'll make sure that it's labeled properly. The only comment, or the last comment, I think was Vice Chair Shanda. You're correct that the building will have room for 7 cars, and that at a maximum we'll have 10 cars at any given, drop off time. So we gave you 30-minute intervals. But these cars are not coming at 4:30 at the same time. You're not having 10 cars come at 4:30. You're having 10 cars over the course of that half hour. So 3-4 cars at a time. You're not going to have a crush of 10. So we're confident that, and Ms. Ewing, who was here before, had to leave at 4 o'clock, but she's mentioned to me that based on this design and this procedure, they've not had an issue with parking, and they don't anticipate an issue with double parking on the street.
Okay, just then provide a narrative in the kind of walk through that argument. I didn't see it in your documentation. I did the calculation, so I would say break it down and kind of indicate why and therefore you believe this would be adequate and all of that. Provide a little bit more.
I can add to the statement of facts.
Yeah.
That there's no problem.
Thanks.
We did break down. There were charts. You read from the charts that showed the half-hour intervals. So I'll just explain that.
Right.
Not 10 cars showing up at 4:30. It's 10 cars over the span of the half hour, which will.
Right. I put that together, but I think you're leaving it to that assumption. So I would say add that to the narrative and indicate, I don't think it would be an issue during the AM because the meter parkings, it's only from 8:30 onwards. So all of the drop-off pickup will be happening. The rush will be before the meter parking is in place. So you should have enough parking there.
Right.
It's really the afternoon. So it's just that chunk. And if you can clarify it in a little bit more in a detailed way,
that's fine.
that this would be why this would not be an issue.
My narrative that we just discussed, I'll put in my statement of facts. No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
I believe that was all of the board's questions with regards to the open seeker. So we did submit hazmat, air quality, and noise. We've been working with DOT, and we have a conference with them tomorrow just to go through the final points on this project. So we're hopeful that DOT will be able to turn around the sign off, relatively quickly as well. I can't control their timelines, but I think that was all the comments from the board.
Well, we have open DEP and we have delays on DEP review, right? They're really.
Right, which you mentioned. I think you mentioned no guarantees again, but I think you mentioned they promised by the end of June. So, and our determinations from all of our work with that there were no concerns. So we're confident that we'll come back to sign off.
The June date was for hazmat. Which they're fairly on target, the hazmat group. Air quality and noise, we sent that a while ago. So we don't really have a projected promise date for that yet.
Okay.
And by the way, the end of June is a terrible time to expect them because they're working on ULURP cases that have to be certified by the end of June. So
no, I understand. It's
very
going to go to my... I was just saying it because I was gonna hope for, if at all possible, to try for the July hearing for a decision, if the board's inclined to close it. No,
we can't close with open seeker. So if anything, I don't know whether we can do the July for continuation. I'm not really sure what the point of that is, but if we can't close, but we might be able to have a July and then close depending on what's still to submit and back and forth, right? So, but we'll discuss that with Tracy.
Okay. If there's any way to do, if there's any way to get me on the July for what I hope will be a close, that'll let us open up, that'll let us hopefully get onto a September hearing for a decision I know there are no hearings in August, but it'll help the school out to just get up and running as quickly as possible.
What's the start date for the school?
We were hoping for September, but it doesn't seem as though that's going to happen. The building, again, the building is a new construction that was built out. So it would be a PAA to change the use. The building itself was built out. There's no real construction to happen at the site. So we were hopeful.
So this is a no work alt one?
It's not no work. The building is in the process of being finished. It was a new construction building. So, they were taking a chance on their as of right, basically, to build the building to suit for the most part, with minimal work to be done afterwards for the school.
But so if it's in the process of being finished, what's that supposed to mean? What's it look like on the inside of the building?
Well, it's substantially complete. They're finishing the interior of the building.
Have you been inside the building?
No.
So you don't know the answer to that. You're fact witness, don't forget. Don't state things that you don't know the answer to, okay?
I have not personally seen it, no problem.
Okay, so we don't know the status of the building, so if it's, they're still laying the floors and installing the toilets kind of thing, it's not gonna be ready for you when you think necessarily, right?
Okay.
Okay. Okay, if you want to get us more information on the actual completion of the interior with photos, that's a different thing. So I don't really know, but again, because the seeker is what's really.
I know. Okay, I'll see what I can find in terms of pictures. I'll send it through through Jella, and then we'll try and work on the timing, over the next couple of days when the chair sees the calendar.
Okay, good. All right. All right, then I'm noting that you want a July close, and I don't know whether we can accommodate, but let's
I
see.
appreciate
Okay.
it.
Thank you. All right. That's it. right?
Public?
No, yeah, public.
Oh, public, sorry, shouldn't have talked about this because this is how I spend time. Anyway, go ahead.
The case we are currently discussing is 2020-76 BZ, 8902 Fifth Avenue, Brooklyn. The call-in number is 646-558-8656. The Zoom webinar ID number is 918-0831-9516. And the passcode that you required is 660655. You can press *9 to raise your hand when you call in, or *6 to unmute. And if you're in the Zoom room, please raise your Zoom hand. There we go.
Okay, so in terms of submitting everything else, how much time do you need to actually submit
I think the submission is June 30th to try and get on for the July hearing.
Yeah, I know, but
Yeah.
I'll
that
stick to that. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a note. I can do it tomorrow.
Okay.
It's not a substantial work on our part. It may be done already, but so if we can have the June 30th for submission, hopefully that takes us to the July hearing.
Right, okay. But it's not just the drawings, it's responding to the question about the.
Right, it's also
Right,
a quick fix on my end.
all right. Okay, I think that allowed enough time for people to call in, and no one called in, so then we can move on to the next one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a good day.
Next item is item 30, 2019-173 BC, 18701 Hillside Avenue, Queens.
Hi, I should have Andrew Villari and Christopher Tartaglia. So I see Chris Tartaglia, and I just need Andrew Villari. Do we see him? I don't see him yet.
Can we start without Andrew?
There's not too many comments, and half of them are Andrews.
Okay.
Andrew, I'll text him.
I just texted him.
Okay.
You want to start? Oh, there he is.
Oh, he's in. Okay,
Hello?
go ahead, Tony.
Yeah,
Tony.
hi. Okay, let's start. Raise your right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board, and to respond honestly to board member questions?
I do.
I do.
Please
Yes.
proceed, Ms. Folder.
Elise Fullader from Eric Palatnik PC. Excuse the noise in the background. First, there was a lot of questions regarding the bus stops. So, Chris, if you'd like to answer the bus stop question.
I will, and I understand the question implicitly. So there actually is two different outcomes for the bus stop. The plans are accurate. In the forever post-build scenario, the DOT has approved that bus stop to be relocated 7 feet east. The letter that you were reading earlier is just during construction of the site, where there'll be disruption to the sidewalks and curbing and things like that. The DOT is going to move those bus stops temporarily to the other side of Chelsea. So I think the plans are okay as drawn, because that's the forever condition. The temporary, I don't know how to handle that on plans, and hopefully with that
You don't need
explanation, we don't have to.
You don't need to.
Great, thank you.
We're only concerned with the bill. Okay.
The next, Chris, would you like to tackle the street tree debacle?
Yeah, so we did. We looked into the street trees, and we're not averse to planting trees. The problem is we've got water, sewer lines that run under, and electric lines that run under both sidewalks on both frontages, which some of them are shallow enough that the utility companies don't want us, and the DEP doesn't want us to plant trees. So, and we have even overhead wires on Hillside. So initially we laid them out, and then when we confirmed the depth of the utilities, we couldn't do them. So we can provide, if you want, in an amended submission, just show our surveyor picked up all of those utilities. We can show those if the board would like that, just as a record.
Yes, please do. And if there was written communication from either DOT or Department of Parks that said essentially no go on those.
Yeah, it relates more to the DEP and their requirements for not allowing street trees to grow into their water mains and sewers. So we don't have anything in writing on that, but we will have the depths of the sewers, and we can provide that.
Okay, but so, and how about the DEP criteria? Like, there must be something in writing that says if there's sewer within X distance, no tree.
Yeah, we'll provide that.
That? Okay.
Sure.
I also want to say we all heard, including Chris, I'm sure, your comment about keying the details with the plans, so we can definitely do that.
Sure.
And then Andrew is the last two questions about Chelsea and a level of service rating, which I couldn't really explain. Andrew's gonna definitely have to. Andrew.
Sure. So DOT is an open item at this point. We are working through that review. We hear Commissioner Chanda's comments regarding the access on Chelsea. So far, we have assumed that driveway to be a full movement driveway, and any access restrictions that the DOT wishes to see, we'd be more than happy to comply with. I want to point out that the intersection with Chelsea Street, in the future, the DOT plans to signalize that intersection regardless of this application. So that's something to keep in mind. Do we want it to be ingress only? Do we want it to be egress only? At this point, going back and forth with the DOT, we'd be more than happy to address anything that they come up with. Regarding the level of service question, I want to clarify that at Hillside and Chelsea Street, its level of service overall be in the morning, midday, and on Saturday during the midday, but in the evening, the overall is an E, LOS, E as in Eric. So I want to make sure that that clarifies the question, or if I'm missing anything there.
Sorry, morning, midday is D, and in the
E as in boy.
Is boy. And in the evening of which day?
Weekday.
Evening, weekday, it's E.
Correct.
That's current. Sorry, go ahead, Commissioner.
My question had to do with the fact that, yes, I understood what you stated, and that was in the 2023 no build. When you go down to the 2023 build, they're basically saying that the ratings stay the same. And then you call out the Hillside Chelsea intersection, and it says it has a B rating for all peak periods. But if it stays the same, it really has an E on weekday evenings, like previously.
Right. So
was that my misreading it, or was that just a minor error?
I think the section of text you're talking about is referring to the driveway on Chelsea. This site's driveway, the actual intersection of Hillside and Chelsea. AM, midday, PM, and Saturday, no build to build in the future, it would stay the same. And that includes B during most times of day, and then E as an elephant during the PM.
Yeah, it's not in that paragraph, that E in weekday evenings.
So, and you have a level of service for a driveway? I don't understand. I thought that has to do with intersections, not.
Yeah, this was the intersection.
Yeah, so driveways also have level of service. It's a measure of delay. So when you're leaving a driveway, you look for pedestrians, you look for oncoming traffic, there is delay that's incurred. So there is level of service for driveways as well as intersections.
Okay.
Commissioner Brown, I know you said it a bunch of times. Can you just tell us that page one more time? Because maybe we can just take a look at it.
I don't have the page. This is the one case where I don't have the page, but it's in the section of the report where you talk about trending your 2018 numbers to get your 2023 proposed no build, and then your 2023 proposed build scenario.
Right. So in the no build scenario, I'll just read a section, make sure I'm reading it. This is page 12 of the text. It's page 13 of the PDF. This is under the no build section. It says signalized intersection of Hillside and Chelsea is calculated to operate at an overall level of service B during the weekday morning, weekday midday, and Saturday midday, and overall level of service E during the weekday evening peak hour.
Right.
And
I
then
have
when we
that.
go to the build, which is page 14, page 15 of the PDF. Now, middle paragraph, right before the bottom of the page, under build LOS capacity analysis, we say, under the 2023 build condition, the study network is calculated to operate generally consistently with the findings of the no build of the same year. So that includes the level of service E that happens in the evening.
Right, except it doesn't say that. It then calls out the Hillside Chelsea intersection again.
Well, the next paragraph is referring to the driveway on Chelsea Street and
Oh,
says
okay.
that the driveway would be B.
All times. Okay, all
Yep.
right. That was my misreading.
Thank you. I'm glad we went through that.
Okay.
I didn't get it.
Vice Chair Shonda has her hand up also.
Sorry, Mr. Valeri, my concern with the Chelsea, I know I had recommended that the curb cut on Chelsea be considered, but my concern would be mostly with the southbound traffic, because that would bring in new set of vehicular traffic, likelihood of bringing a new vehicular set of traffic, making a left turn into the into this facility, whereas vehicles turning right and then turning right into the gas station, that's not going to affect the residential neighborhood, or vehicles that would exit onto Chelsea and going northbound, they're going home anyway, not likely to. I mean, this is not an area where they're going to bypass Hillside to get to somewhere. So my only concern is with the southbound, and maybe there's a better explanation, maybe. So that's why that's the only one that I would like DOT, if they have any concern, or if you can, in a narrative way from a neighborhood, from what I know of the neighborhood, that's my only concern.
Understood. So the southbound left turn coming from Chelsea Street, making a left turn into the station.
Yes.
Yeah. I understand your comment. I think if we were to prohibit that movement and someone that does live in that neighborhood wants to come down to the center, instead of making a left turn directly into the site on the side street, they'd have to make a left onto Hillside and then another left.
Yeah, it's too many lefts. It's not something that, and that's why I'm kind of in two minds. Like,
yeah.
I understand those who are living in the neighborhood, for them it's a benefit, but then are you going to draw in someone who is not in the neighborhood and create a bypass?
Yeah.
To avoid the rest of the Hillside and then Van Wyck.
I don't think that would happen just because of the nature of the use. I think that this is going to draw predominantly traffic from Hillside. There's studies that show that gas stations and convenience stores, almost 90%, 87% is what the study says, is comprised of what's called pass-by traffic. So people that are on Hillside Avenue, either going to work, going to school, they stop here on their way. who could access this site from Chelsea Street? I'm going to guess that they probably live in the neighborhood somewhere northwest of where the site is. But that's going to be the minority of traffic here, only 10%, something in that range. So it's possible, but I think that is one of the points of the application. It would serve that neighborhood in addition to.
So if you could put
sidewalk.
that in a narrative with
Yeah.
some kind of a subjective analysis, and let's wait for DOT also to weigh in whether this is a appropriate location for full service drive-through or not.
No problem.
Thank you.
Anything else from anybody? Any other
Thank you.
questions? Anything else the applicants want to discuss?
I think just Andrew's still working with DOT, and we heard your comments, so I don't think.
Okay. All right, so let's go to the public.
The case that we are currently discussing is 2019-173BZ, 18701 Hillside Avenue, Queens. The call-in number is 646-558-8656. The webinar ID number is 918-0831-9516. The passcode, should you require it, is 660655. And when you call in, you can press *9 to raise your hand to speak and *6 to unmute that call. If you are in the Zoom room, please press your Zoom hand. Raise your Zoom hand, sorry.
Okay, so while we wait to see if anyone calls in, I think the other two people who are in the waiting room are related to one of the later cases. How much time do you need to respond to these, understanding we have open seeker?
I think at this point, we're waiting for DOT, right, Andrew? You've made a lot of submissions.
Yeah, I think I got a date
Oh.
today from
Oh.
Tracy, I think. Maybe I'm
July
confusing
9th.
my projects.
Say, what?
I saw two.
I think,
Sorry.
yeah, I'm not sure. I have to check which project that was. I
That's
know
not
which one.
this project. It's
Yeah,
not this
okay.
project.
No,
Oh,
you're
I
right.
can
Excuse me.
verify.
Oh, it wasn't, then I'm wrong. Yeah, I've seen too many emails.
Yeah, so I think
Happens.
our submission depends on when we hear back from DOT next.
Okay, so we need an estimate. Anyway. So what's our best guess?
So guys, this is Chris. Sorry, I'm just going to chime in. We really want to try to get this project in the ground this year prior to bad weather. So is 4 weeks an unreasonable estimate, Andrew, for DOT? I can have my stuff in a couple days. I know you can't control the agency, but does that sound unrealistic?
Not controlling the agency. I think the dates Madam Chair referenced, like May 26th, May 27th was when we first started the submission, and then we went back and forth a few times so far. I think 4 weeks gives us a chance.
I agree.
Saying there's a chance.
So does that mean you're thinking maybe by June 30th, we'd have an answer from DOT? Is that, no, that's not any time at all. That's only 2 weeks, right? So that's, our problem is, yeah, it's only 2 weeks, so.
Well, it's been an ongoing review. So it's not like they just started the review. So I guess it is possible. But
The email we received today said they weren't sure if they could finish the review by June 24th, which was the previous date but they had requested some more information, that you guys provided a schematic and everything. So they said they're not sure if geometric design will get back by June 24th.
So let me put it this way. So you're just saying you want to start the work by the end of, before the frost sets in, basically, right? To give DOT kind of a break during a very tense time, I think, at the moment for those reviewing agencies. We have an August 30th submit date on our September hearing. So why don't we just realistically look at it like that? So an August 30th submit would give you and DOT enough time for any kind of back and forths. And then that's a September hearing. So that's not so bad, right? Okay. Since I hear nothing, to do that. So it's September 30th submit.
What is the submission date prior to that, Madam Chair?
We don't have an August hearing, so.
So it would either be June 30th or August then.
Yes.
Is there an early August submission?
No, it doesn't matter. You want to submit early or have yes, but the hearing for September has an August 30th submission.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Good day.
Thanks.
Tony, before you go on, I'd like to give everybody a 10-minute break. 4:45, coming back at 5:05, okay?
Okay. Sorry, Frank, I know you're in the room, but 10-minute break.
We've been at it for
Look at my screen. Are we ready?
Yeah, just give me 1 second. Something else is going on. Just 1 second. Oh, we're on YouTube and recording's paused, but we're live.
Yeah. Hate that voice.
Okay, well, if we're recording, do we have everybody? Commissioners, can you come back, please, if you're not already here? Okay. No, there's more that I have to do. Why don't you get started and I'll get back in a second, okay?
Okay, Kurt?
Yes.
Okay, so I can start calling the case again?
Yes.
Okay, new case, item number 31, 2019-206BZ, 5122 Roosevelt Avenue, Queens. Okay, Mr. St. Jacques, who else is with you? Clyde, right? I saw Clyde Pittman. Wilson
Hi,
Chow.
yes, we also have the architect, Wilson Chow, and I believe that's it from our team, just Clyde and Wilson and
Okay,
myself.
raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to the board member questions?
I do.
Okay, Mr. St. Jacques, proceed.
Thank you, Tony. Good afternoon. My name is Frank St. Jacques from Ackerman LLP. We represent the applicant in this 7366 application. We attended this afternoon's review session. Myself and members of the project team, including the architect and our aviation consultant or airspace consultant, Mr. Clyde Pittman, are available if there are any questions that were not raised at the review session. Otherwise, we'll rest on the record.
Wow. Rest on the record. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, so maybe you can, I don't know if there's members of the community that are here. I don't see any. Okay. I was hoping that for the record, you might be able to just go respond to the community concerns. I read your statement of facts, but maybe you could just go through community concerns about the height of the building, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. You know, as we indicated in the statement of facts, there's you know, ultimately the increase from the permitted height within the R6 under height factor regulations, and the proposed building is relatively modest, as you noted, about 4 stories, and we believe it's appropriate within the area and would provide several benefits, which again were described in our statement of facts. The one thing that you touched on in the review session was our mention of the the data, the census data as it relates to rent burdened households in Community District 2. I'll just note that we included that information to note that essentially more housing inventory would potentially reduce pressure in a tight housing market. We indicated the low vacancy rate in the area, and we believe that these 90 new units, could work to alleviate some of that pressure. Ultimately, other benefits in addition to new housing for the area are the new commercial and community facility spaces that would be available for new businesses to occupy that would ultimately serve the community. As was noted at the review session and in the materials, this site is highly transit oriented. It's immediately adjacent to the entrance to the subway station, and the development as proposed would open up that area, replacing an existing industrial use that is essentially a surface parking lot and a one-story semi-industrial building, with a new active ground floor use that with those. And forgive me, there's a siren outside my window. Those new uses would ultimately benefit the community, but by providing new opportunities for shopping, local services, dining, and medical office uses. I believe that covers our argument as it relates to the community benefits. I will just touch on the the intent of the design was to pull the building back from the street line, again, to open up that space between the Roosevelt Avenue facade of the building and where the elevated train is, to give some more room for pedestrians and also for light and air with the proposed development.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other comments from anyone? I'd like to compliment the architect on an excellent submission of drawings. They were complete. And always Mr. Pittman, because I know you're behind there, the scenes, making sure everything is happening properly. So thank you. Okay, so let's go to the public.
Okay, the case that we are currently discussing is 2019-206BZ, 5122 Roosevelt Avenue, Queens. The call-in number, should you wish to call in, is 646-558-8656. The Zoom webinar ID number is 918-0831-9516. The passcode is 660655, should you need it. And when you call in, you can press *9 to raise your hand to speak and *6 to unmute. If you are in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand.
Okay. So far, nobody's called in. I don't think there were any requested corrections, right? We do have open.
No, it's type 2.
It's type 2, but on 527 requested a new type 2 form with backup analysis as required for 7366. So Tracy, are we good, or we need to have this corrected prior to close?
No, we received everything. We received the updated form and all of it. They meet all the prerequisites, so.
Okay, great. So then, seeing no participation from the community, I'd like to make a motion to close, and there's no submission.
Chair Perlmutter?
Aye.
Vice Chair Chanda?
Aye.
Commissioner Otley Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Shepherd?
Aye.
Commissioner Shabeta?
Aye.
Thank you. This application is closed for decision.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. And if I may, I'd just like to extend our thanks to Daryl. He was extremely helpful in processing this application.
Thank you. We always appreciate appreciation.
Excellent. Thanks so much. Take care.
Okay, bye.
The final item is item number 32, 2021-12BZ, 250 Westervelt Avenue, Staten Island.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Madam Chair, Ron Rosati, representing the applicant.
The only one, Ron?
Yes,
Okay. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this board and to respond honestly to board member questions?
yes, I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I heard your comments earlier. I'd like to address them regarding the 16-foot width home that both you two commissioners commented on. We will provide another study for corner lots that are 25 feet in width and to show the home widths on those lots. If you look at the front yard study that I provided, front yard corner lot study, you can see many of the homes. You can see the outline of some of those homes, like for instance, site number 1, site number 3, site number 4, site number 5, site number 7, site number 9, and you can see those homes are 25-foot wide lots, and the width of those homes are basically occupying the whole width of that site. But we'll add the widths of those homes to show that 16 feet is within character for the area. In fact, I'm sure the average will be much greater than 16 feet in width.
Okay, so Mr. Rosati, don't just add the widths, you need to make an argument. So there needs to be a narrative about why 16 feet is the number, right?
Sure. Yes. We'll add that to the statement and we'll add a study.
Can I add, sorry, can I add one more comment? In that chart that you have provided, homes with substandard front yard with proximity to subject site, I would say add a column, add maybe 2 columns. One is the year built and also the lot width. So that will also give us an idea of when you say the approximate yard dimensions, putting it in the context of the lot width and the depth would also be helpful.
Sure, I could add that.
I picked it up basically when I was looking at your analysis. I just went through Zola and filled that column up.
Yeah, not a problem. I can easily add that in.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Madam Chair will also provide ownership information for the site and the adjoining sites from 1961. I don't believe that they were ever owned in conjunction with each other. Regarding the floor area bonus question, in low density growth management areas, you get that 20% bonus anywhere in the building that has the roof of 7/12 pitch. This was a question that also came up on a case a few months ago that I had the architect explain that. But once again, we're not asking for any increase in floor area. This is something the buildings department reviews.
Okay, so I need you to put a note on the drawing because that almost makes no sense. You mean if it's a 4-story building under a pitch roof, you get to deduct the floor area from the first floor?
Well, you get that bonus. The bonus, the 20% bonus could be located anywhere within the building.
It says under a slope of whatever it is, 1 to 7 or something, under a sloping roof of 1 to 7. It doesn't say anywhere in the building. That's you reading into it, right?
Well, that's what I got. Well, as I stated in one of our other hearings on a case, that's exactly what the architect had said to this board maybe a month or 2 ago.
Right.
But I'll get this current architect to
No. That's not what I asked you to do. Please listen to what I say before you answer. Okay, let's try that. So I'd like you to put on the drawing that the BSA takes no position on whether the area in the attic is floor area. Department of Buildings to review and make a determination. Okay.
Yes, we could add that note to the plan. There's a question about street trees. I will ask the architect why there's only one. It would seem there's distance requirements from the intersection as well as the curb cut and the utility pole, but I'll flesh that out with him as to whether or not additional street trees can be provided at the site. Commissioner Shanda, you would ask some special hillsides preservation district applicability questions. Yes, the site is a tier 2 site, which means it's greater than 10% average slope, and that's shown on the survey provided. You could see it says on the existing survey at the bottom, it says S equals 19.41, percentage slope equals tier 2. So it is a tier 2 site. And as per section 119.211, as you stated, it's between the 15 and 19.9% slope. So it does have a 20% lot coverage requirement. We are 19.9% lot coverage. So we're within that lot coverage requirement. The Special Hillside District does not require all sites go before the City Planning Commission. Maybe Natural Area does, but the Special Hillside District does not require that. If we're within the lot coverage requirements, if we're not disturbing any steep slope, the site does not have any steep slope, it could proceed as of right. So we didn't proceed going to City Planning for that authorization 119.318 to reduce the front yard. We came to the BSA instead, as we knew there were former cases on narrow corner lots that did receive that front yard reduction.
But how are you determining that you don't need to go to city planning?
The Special Hillside District preservation text is clear. You only need, if you need an authorization for modification of steep slope, then you would have to go to city planning. If the site doesn't have any steep slope. If you're exceeding the lot coverage, you would have to go to city planning. We aren't exceeding that 20% lot coverage. We're below it at 19.9%. So there's no action we need before the City Planning Commission. There's numerous sites within the Hillside District are as of right if you comply with lot coverage and things of that nature. So I could flesh that out if you'd like in a statement.
You must, right, definitely. So go through, provide a copy of the sections to which you refer, and then show us how the site does not trigger any of those requirements.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. And Commissioner Shanda, I will update those studies so that they both have either letters and or numbers. Commissioner Ali Brown, you also asked for an as-of-right home sketch. The as-of-right foundation is only 9 foot 10 inches in width. Usually when it's that narrow, take off another foot or so for wall width. We'd only be an 8 foot wide house. Would you still like floor plans showing an 8 foot wide home?
It doesn't have to be a formal like plan. If you could just sketch it out, you could even do a hand sketch even. I just want to see it so that you can, dot your I's and cross your T's, so to speak.
Right.
Sure. We'll ask the architect to sketch something out to show how it doesn't work. And Commissioner Scabetta, the community board did approve it. There were no conditions. I saw what you saw on their recommendation letter. It looks like they accidentally checked off a box with a yellow check, and then they X'd out the other box. But I can tell you from attending that community board hearing, there were no conditions. It was approved by them.
Thank you, Council.
By the community board, not the council. By the community board.
Community board.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
I was saying thank you, Councilor.
Oh, thank you, council. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. All right, great. What else? All right, I think that is it. Okay, so let's go to the public.
Okay, the case we are currently discussing is 2021-12 BC, 250 Westervelt Avenue, Staten Island. The call-in number is 646-558-8656. The Zoom webinar ID number is 918-0831-9516. The passcode, should you need it, is 660655. And you may press *9 to raise your hand once you call in, or *6 to unmute to speak. If you are in the Zoom room already, please raise your Zoom hand.
Okay, so how much time to respond to this? The study, the width study, and the front yard study, right? Front yard waiver study. Sorry, is it the front yard waiver study? Yeah. Side front yard. Yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't take long. I'm just, if we could get on it, I could probably submit within 5 weeks. If we could get on in August, if that's possible. If not, September works for us.
Okay, we'll see how we go. Okay, we'll try. All right, I'm writing 5 weeks to submit though, okay?
Yes, thank
There's
you.
no August hearings, Mr. Rosati.
Right, he knows, I think.
I thought it just said August.
I was not aware of that. So
okay.
yes.
No, August, yeah.
Okay.
All right, we'll note that. So we'll let you know, of course, when the scheduled hearing date is, and then you'll know exactly when to submit by, okay?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're done?
So,
Okay, this concludes the June 15th, 2021, 2 p.m. session.
thank you, everybody. Thanks so much for all.